That's the best part of being a quiet leader is you're not the one talking. You're asking the questions and then you're simply sitting back, digesting the information, move all those barriers out of the way, and then affirm and confirm what you are hearing throughout the conversation. People will do as you do, not as you say. Start the day with a positive affirmation. Start the day with purpose. The takeaway here is leadership is not about the big moments. It's really about those silent and consistent actions. Hey everyone, John here. Welcome to the episode today. Are you playing chess or are you playing checkers? Leadership is a game of chess. And what if, just what if, the most powerful move was when you took the move and you just sat back. You didn't boast. You didn't celebrate the move, even if you captured another piece of the chess, your opponent's chess. It just happened in silence. You'd be surprised that when we as leaders sit back and listen, it's those quiet leaders. You don't have to be a leader that has the big grand speeches to motivate people. It always reminds me of those locker room speeches, specifically coaches, or even like a Steve Jobs when he introduced the iPhone. He was a dynamic speaker. He was a leader that was out front. And a lot of times what I find is leaders, they look to a Steve Jobs or they look to a prolific coach, a winning coach, and they're like, I can never be like that. I don't know. I just don't know if leadership is right for me. I don't even know if I'm a leader. I hear that more often than not. Do you feel that way? Because if you do, this episode is for you. This episode, we're going to focus on the fact that there's all different types of leadership styles. And being the quiet giant, being the quiet leader in the room, this episode right here is titled The Quiet Power That Shapes Our Success. And as leaders, we sometimes forget that you don't have to adopt a style that's uncomfortable. If you're introverted, I'm introverted by nature. That surprises a lot of people, but that's where I get my energy. That's where I refuel. I was out on a run today and a walk with my dog Max, and I began thinking about the episode today and a little bit about my leadership style, a little bit about some leaders that I've worked for. And one of the things that coaching and mentoring allows us to do as leaders, whether that's in the business sense or maybe you're listening to podcasts, maybe you're reading some books, maybe you follow an influencer, whatever that looks like. Coaching and mentoring doesn't have to be a one-on-one conversation. It can look like many different things. And I tend to gravitate towards more of the sit back, listen, the quiet leader, put your team out front, support them from behind, just move obstacles out of the way. That's where I'm comfortable. I always thought that I needed to be out front. I needed to be leading the charge. I needed to be the one that gave the pep talks all the time. And it works for some people. And if that works for you, great, because that's a great leadership style. But being a silent leader is also a great leadership style. So today, we're going to give 3 strategies that can transform your team, your business, if you are one of those silent leaders in the room. No grandiose speeches needed. Sound good? Let's get into this. The first strategy that, I came up with was these micro moments of recognition. And I'll just share a story with you. One thing that recognition allows us to do, and this can be brief. It doesn't have to come in the form of an awards assembly or formal recognition. A simple thank you after a meeting. Maybe they did a good job on the briefing. Maybe they had a good morning and you've seen, maybe some activity from them, and you just walk up to the cube, knock on the door, or knock on, whatever, their office, or walk up to them wherever they're at on their desk and just say, hey, good job. I saw you today and I really appreciate the energy you brought. I really appreciate the information you shared. I really appreciate how you addressed maybe some conflict in the conversation, whatever. Be specific, but just a simple thank you or a good job, a pat on the back. You don't have to be a physical pat on the back, but Again, just something that is quick and easy. And, one of the things that does is it allows people to feel as if they're seen. And you'd be surprised how many leaders, and they don't do it intentionally, that when somebody does a good job or goes out of the way to do something for your business, for the team, for another peer, whatever that looks like, for maybe an external stakeholder, and they just consider it like a routine or part of your job. Have you been there? Have you been like that employee who went out of their way to do something and didn't get any recognition? And even outside of work, right? The work environment. It could have been something you did at home. Maybe you folded the laundry and your spouse, your significant other, didn't thank you for it. And you're just like, well, I just folded the laundry. And I'm not saying that that's not part of your duties. We're all in it together. We're all here to help. But just a simple thank you sometimes can motivate somebody to do it again. And I found this even raising kids, the thank yous rather than, hey, why didn't you throw the trash? Thank them for whatever they did, a good behavior. Thank you for picking up your room. And you'd be surprised that they come out of the room and they're like, oh yeah, Dad, I forgot to throw the trash. I didn't even have to tell them to throw the trash. All I had to do was thank them for what they did. So one of the things that we're going to talk about as far as applications, get out your pen, pencil, get out your journal, write these things down. So we're talking about the strategy of micro moments of recognition. And here's a couple applications. Shout outs. I love to do shout outs in our Teams channel. We have Teams in our business. I use WhatsApp for my other businesses. You can do this in a text message, a group text message, however you organize your chats. And it's a simple shout out that, especially if you have virtual teams, because I know a lot of leaders out there are leading virtual teams. You're not co-located, so you can't run by the cube or hand them a thank you card. So you do a virtual shout out in the Teams channel or in your virtual, whatever instant messaging system, and you just call them out. You at them at whoever. Thanks for the great presentation today, and it's something everybody sees, gets thumbs up, you get some heart emojis, whatever it looks like. But that, even for me, I'm getting goosebumps here because I love that kind of stuff. People love to be recognized. And as leaders, especially quiet leaders, it doesn't have to wait. We don't have to wait until sometime of formal recognition. We can do that just through a simple text or simple typing and posting it in the Teams channel. So shout outs in your Slack channel, shout outs, in your Google Meets, whatever system that you're using. Great way to do that. And then another application that I really like as far as micro moments of recognition is this idea of, try to acknowledge whatever behavior, whatever action happened as soon as it's completed. And, this is in the moment acknowledgement. So after that meeting, go up to them, or as soon as you possibly can within that day, and thank them. It means a lot, especially, because on the drive home, sometimes you're like, man, John didn't even notice what I did today. I knocked it out of the park. I stayed up all night preparing that presentation for, whoever, the new client or a potential customer. And John didn't even say thank you. Don't let them simmer on the way home. Try to get that acknowledgement as close to the behavior as you possibly can. So those are two applications for this micro moments in recognition, and just a simple thank you can go a long way as far as the motivation. And really, for the most part, even more than money, sometimes I find I can thank people and I'm not necessarily having to hand them money. It can motivate them. Now, money's always nice, I'm not going to lie, but sometimes as small business owners, we don't have money to be handing out every time somebody does well, but a thank you, that's free. So that's the first one. The second one we're going to talk about is this intentional listening practice. And I really am very focused on, when I'm in a conversation, how I'm hearing, attentive to that conversation and what that person's saying. And I watched a great podcast about this, because you can not say anything. This is what I get from, people that I coach, business owners, leaders that I coach. They're like, well, I didn't say anything, but you were thinking something. We think at a rate of more than 400 words per minute. Now, depending on how fast you talk, you don't talk nearly that fast. So as you're listening to somebody else, a lot of times what's going on in my mind is, oh man, I forgot to pick up, whatever item at the grocery store, or I got practice tonight. I got to get out of here by a certain time. Whoa, time out. when you begin to start thinking about things that are outside of the conversation, because it's easy to get distracted. My attention span is very short. So here, when we are being intentional about listening, we want to make sure that we are hearing what the individual says, because that builds influence. That builds really trust in a relationship that the other person really cares what we're talking about. So a couple ways, and one of the things that advantages before we get into the applications, you discover like roadblocks, things that people, these limiting beliefs that they put on themselves, that if you're listening, if you're really cluing in into what they're saying, you'd be surprised on what you can find out, especially if you're talking through a challenge or they're debriefing you on a project, or, they're coming to you just with a problem that they have, maybe that they're experiencing in their personal lives. And for you to really sit back, you can uncover a lot of different things. So how do we do that? What does that look like as a leader? There's two applications here when we're talking about intentional listening practices that I want to challenge you guys to practice, challenge you all, is one, the digital detox. Like even having your phone on a table when you're sitting across from somebody, that's a distraction. You're getting notifications, texts, you're getting, your Twitter feeds lighting up if something's going on or whatever that looks like. Emails dinging, especially if you don't have it on silent, but remove it. Like detox your whole entire area, especially if you're sitting across from somebody, it's a desk in between you or whatever that looks like, put it away. Put it in a bag, slide it in a drawer, whatever that takes, because every time that light goes off or it dings, what are you doing? Boom. My eyes are going there. I'm broke my attention to whatever I'm listening to. So this digital detox, put all the devices away. If I'm having an in-person conversation, I'll lock my computer, or I'll silence my computer, or I'll close my laptop lid. That way I don't have any distractions between me and that individual. And along with that, I will also remove any kind of barriers that are between me and the other individual. So however you position your office, or if you're, walking into the office area, maybe up to the employee's cube or their workspace or whatever that looks like, just remember personal space. Some people don't like you in their bubble, so be always mindful of that. But also remove in between anything, like if there's a chair or anything sitting in between you and the individual, I will get out in front and I'll make sure that there is a clear path between me and that individual. So besides the digital detox, getting everything out of the way, remove those physical barriers also, and you would be surprised how well now that listening, you're able to do it. Another way here is affirmation and confirmation. Try it on. I want to take a quick break from the episode today to talk about a couple things. The first thing, less than 40% of our listeners are subscribed to our channel. You would be doing me a huge favor if you click on that subscribe button. It helps us grow our Go Be Great community and get this podcast out to as many people as we possibly can. The second thing, are you a small business owner that is drowning in the day-to-day operations? You're delegating tasks and you're still doing all the work. You're experiencing a high turnover. Maybe you don't have the systems and processes in place that you need to run a successful business. I invite you to go over to thejohnespinosa.com, fill out the form to see if you're the right fit. Now back to the episode. So this one is a little bit more tricky. What I'm talking about here is when you're in a conversation, and I'll just take my wife and I, for example, because we just had a conversation earlier about my son's practice. He went to soccer practice, and we were talking about, how that practice was. And she mentioned something, and I affirmed. I shook my head, nonverbal shake, and then I confirmed. I repeated back kind of what I heard her say in her own words. I just tried to repeat it back, and there was a catch there as far as miscommunication, because she said, no, it's on Thursday, not Wednesday. So luckily I didn't show up the wrong day, but that's affirmation and confirmation working together. So affirmation is a head nod, maybe you writing down a note. I always take a note, and I always let them know, hey, that's interesting. That's a great point you want to make. I want to capture that before we move on. So again, that's that affirmation, that's that confirmation, and then I'll read it back. So what I heard you say was you want to uncover all these hidden roadblocks through digital detox, affirmation, and confirmation. Just something simple like that. Allow that person to digest. And then if they agree, if that's what they meant, let's move on. And sometimes it'll provoke them. It'll prompt another great idea. It'll prompt another suggestion. That's where we begin to really realize the power of these applications, especially with the affirmation and the confirmation part. And as a quiet leader, it allows us to sit back and listen. Like, that's the best part of being a quiet leader is you're not the one talking. You're asking the questions, and then you're simply sitting back, digesting the information, remove all those barriers out of the way, and then affirm and confirm what you are hearing throughout the conversation. And that individual, the other person that's talking to you, is going to walk away feeling like $1,000,000. I promise. Try it on. I'm serious. Try it, and you will see a difference between the way that your interactions begin to grow and the influence you have also begins to grow with that. So that's the second strategy, intentional listening practices. The third one here, and this is one again that as a leader, I really had to check myself on because this is habit-based influence. And you've heard me say this before, but I'm going to say it again. People will do as you do, not as you say. And I got a great example of this. I recently went on vacation. And you guys have heard that I've begun to shorten my vacations. I've begun to leave my work phone, my computer at home because I don't even remove the temptation, just like remove the distraction, remove digital detox. And I did that. I was very good at that. I got back, got into the office. We were having a team meeting. And on the latest team meeting, I got called out. One of the team members said, "Hey, John, you always tell us to go on vacation and rest and relax and make sure that you disconnect. But I caught you answering an email." And I was like, you know what? You're right. Well, I didn't say anything. I didn't, again, say that I answered an email. I was telling them to disconnect. But guess what? My behavior contradicted that. My behavior was the exact opposite. So they know they're watching you. Trust me, your team, your employees, they are watching you. So how you behave, your consistent behavior, what you say and what you do, if they're two different things and they don't align, they're going to call you out on it. Well, hopefully they will. If you got a great team, they're going to check you on it. So for here, your small, consistent actions, they really create that leadership culture. They perpetuate the culture that even though you're saying it, you also got to do it. You also got to walk the walk in this situation. So right here, applications. What do you do, John? One of the great things that I like to do, and I like to model this, is start the day with a positive affirmation. Start the day with purpose. And I do this again through our chat, through our Teams chat, whatever chat that you got. And if you don't have one, create one. Like, create it. It's simple. You can use WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a great app where, you add everybody's phone number in there. You got them in your phone, you create a group, you can organize the groups, whatever that looks like. Even in, depending on how large your business is or how large your team is, you can do marketing, you can do sales, you can do finance, budget, or training, HR. Do it by departments. If you have a small team, then just put them all in one chat. But for the most part, I will start the day, and I do this on Mondays. I do it on Fridays mostly, but I'll do it throughout the day, especially like if I can feel the team may be a little stressed or we got a deadline coming up, whatever that looks like. And I'll simply type in the morning, "Good morning, everybody. Hope you have a great day. I look forward to seeing the results of the project," or "I look forward to the end of the week." If it's a Friday, everybody have a great weekend. Try to get some rest and relaxation. See everybody on Monday. Monday morning, "Hey everybody, this is going to be a great week. I'll be here, maybe whatever my schedule looks like that week. Reach out if you need anything, please. I'll talk to you on our check-ins or talk to you in our team meetings." Or on Tuesdays, we have our team meetings on Tuesdays. In the morning, "Good morning, everybody. Looking forward to our team meeting today." It doesn't have to be a lot, but it has to be something. And a little goes a long way, especially when we're talking about modeling that behavior. And a lot of times, and you got to back this up, You can't just type things in your chat and expect that magic is going to happen. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying here is you also got to behave in that way. But now what you're doing is you're just giving a little bit of inspiration, and it's through chat, and you don't have to give some grandiose speech. I may even put a GIF or a GIF, or however you say that, a picture of somebody kind of fist bumping or celebrating, or we do our birthdays through there, or we do maybe like a celebration, maybe somebody got married or it's their anniversary or whatever you want to celebrate in there. This influence with you and your team in the way that you guys are going to interact. So I love it. I absolutely love to start the day with purpose. I myself, you've heard me, 3 thoughts of gratitude before my feet hit the ground. It's the very first thing after I hit my snooze or my off on my alarm that I get done. And I just flow that into work. Flow that into my business, flow that into my team. So that's a great way that you can do that. And then another great way is, and I talked about this a little bit with the end of the week debrief, and I do this with the teams, especially if you're in the thick of a project, or maybe you're trying to get something done, you're trying to meet a metric, you're trying to get that bonus, whatever that looks like. But the end of the week, we'll recap wins and we'll recap setbacks. And so again, you can do this through chat or you can put it in an email. I normally put it in an email out to the team. And I simply say, these were our wins this week. We did a great job meeting this, or we got a new customer, or we hit our budget lines, or we hit our numbers, whatever that looks like. Great job, team. Setbacks. Hey, we lost an account, but guess what? We got 2 more. Something to where you're not fluffing it up or turning something bad into good, because failure is an option. We will fail. That's a certainty. And we just got to learn from that failure. But if you talk about it and you make it part of your culture, those setbacks, it becomes something that we can talk about. Like, we don't push things under the rug. We're going to get better. We're going to take that challenge and we're going to move on. So again, it's that behavior, and it starts with you as the leader. It starts with you as the business owner on how you set that up, how you start the day, and how you address those wins and those setbacks. And again, remember, this is about quiet leadership. So you can put this in an email, a very thoughtful email, even run it through AI if you want to do it that way, whatever that looks like for you, but you're not out front calling a big team meeting or calling a Zoom session. All of these things that I talked about today can be done through chat. They can be done through email. They can be done through a simple thank you. Like, none of this is a cause for great celebration or you having to make this big speech, right? This big grand speech in front of everybody. So just to recap of what we talked about, because there's a lot here, is 1, the micro moments of recognition, simple thank yous, how that shapes the really acknowledgement of people. And that simple thank you can go a long way, especially if someone's having a bad day. Number 2 is intentional listening practices. Here, quieting your mind, like preventing yourself from raising your virtual hand. What happens when we've been conditioned to this, so this is going to be hard. This is hard for me because many years I've been conditioned. Somebody asks a question, I raise my hand and wait to be called on. That's what we're doing in our mind when we're thinking about our grocery list or we're thinking about what we're going to have for dinner. Quiet your virtual hand. Put it down. When you feel it raising, pull it down. Then habit-based influence, great. Model your behavior that you want others to have. Simple as that. You can say it until you're blue in the face, but they're going to call you out on it. So the takeaway here is leadership is not about the big moments. It's really about those silent and consistent actions that we have as leaders that are going to turn into those big wins. I hope this helps somebody today. I believe in you. I hope you like this content. I'm very excited about this season. Make sure you're subscribed. It tells the platform to push this out to as many people as we possibly can so they get all the benefit of these strategies. And it would mean a lot to me. So thank you for listening, especially if you've lasted till the end. Talk to you next time. Go be great. Bye-bye. If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor. Click on that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great. Talk to everyone later.